Well, good evening. We'll go ahead and get started tonight. Renee, please show all board members except for Mr. Satterley present. And join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item is the approval of the agenda. Any changes?
No, Mr. President.
No changes? All right.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Gilkey.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. All in favor? All right. Thank you. All right. Next is public comments on agenda items. I think we have one tonight. Mr. Denton. So.
The agenda item I'd like to speak to is the change in the time we teach kids, and that is the 45 minutes we've added today. I want you to know, first of all, the teachers that came to me several weeks ago about doing something to get more instructional time before the high stakes test. It came from high school teachers, it came from elementary teachers across our corporation to find some way to do that. But also, we wanted some way that didn't inconvenience so many people, and it seems like almost any way you do that could be an inconvenience. Whatever we did, when we changed the schedule, we changed the time, even having the makeup days at the end probably is an inconvenience for some people. But of the times we tried, and we met together again with Dr. Mellon and part of his staff, and also another teacher and I, and we talked about a lot of things, but then we got to adding some time to the end of the day. And so right away we were kind of excited. Here was a way we didn't think, we thought was a dead issue, so we thought we'd try and get out to teachers, and we put out emails right away to try and gather support and see if there was support or not. And we at first it looked like it was pretty good. We got back from a few schools, and I was trying to keep everybody up to date with information. I was getting that out to people, to Dr. Mellon and to what the positive things I was getting, and to Kim and to Travis some, and I was telling them things of what was coming into me. By the weekend and on, it started to get a little bit negative, and so I was kind of reporting some of that too. We need time for the little kids. The little kids are coming in. They're tired by 2 o'clock. They're wore out, and we'd have to do some things with the schedule, some fancy things to help. Anyway, we continued to gather input. It was looking like around 80% possibly of teachers were in support of the change like that, of adding the 45 minutes a day, and maybe that left 20% that weren't really, and some were saying it's a big change in the contract, we don't want to do that. But I continue to look for some way to not damage people who had doctor's appointments after school. Some people I have other jobs. They teach at Greater Clark. They go to West Clark to coach. They have kids that depend on them in both places. So we have a lot of situations where we need some flexibility. So I was really pushing for flexibility. I wanted some time before school started, or some flexibility someplace. With the agreement we came up with, we do have some flexibility in the notes that we have, in the document we have, but still we have to really watch that we monitor that flexibility, and we use it because I think there's just so many things going on with so many people that we have to be careful not to damage them, and so that they are their freedoms are respected, the things they have to do are respected. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Denton. All right. Next item on the agenda is strategic plan at a glance.
Board, just wanted to give you an update. As you know, with our strategic plan, we go through a mid-year review process. We had 60 members of our strategic planning committee come together here just a few weeks ago and review the plan. And we broke down into our 4 subcommittees: student achievement and instruction, finance, public relations and marketing, and facilities and technology. And they went over each aspect of the plan with two things in mind. Number one, let's look at what results we have and make sure we document those results, but also, are there other issues within the plan that we need to address or modify? Based upon that input, then we came together and made modifications. So basically, if the subcommittee made a recommendation, then we went ahead and implemented it into the strategic plan. Most of the suggestions that they made were nothing that was out of the ordinary. It all made sense. What we have, and it's for your benefit, and after tonight, we'll make it available on our website, but just a slight modification to the plan. We still have a strategic plan at a glance that's on the website. When you go into our home page, you'll see strategic plan. You click on it, you'll have a strategic plan at a glance. And that really gives a quick overview. If you want to get into the details, there's a link at the bottom. You click on it, and you'll get to this document. So if you get into this document, again, as I said, there are not a tremendous amount of changes in it. It starts in the finance area. What we try to do is mark in bold any changes that we had. And in the finance area, there really wasn't any significant changes at all made by the group. What we did is under Goal 3, where we're fiscally mindful stewards of public funds, what we did want to make sure is under the actual results column that we indicated that we believe that the employee, the wellness clinic will reduce employee absenteeism due to illness and will reduce substitute costs. So we'll be tracking that, and we'll be seeing the level or extent to which the wellness center in fact does that for us. So they wanted to make sure that that was noted in the plan, since we made such a big commitment to the wellness center. And then down inside of the public relations and marketing piece, really, there was a lot of discussion and conversation in that area, but nothing that led to any changes. They felt that the plan was appropriately addressing our needs, and we were moving forward accordingly, so that mid-year review basically substantiated what we're doing in the public relations and marketing area. Then, inside of the facilities and technology, one of the things we talked about is, and we talked today, our executive team met, is we just talked about how are we going to make sure that we know the level or extent to which students and our families have access to the internet at home. We know that we've provided the Chromebooks to every 3rd through 12th grader, but how are we going to know that? In the past, most of our surveying was done online, and obviously if we're taking a survey online, we're not always going to know those individuals who don't have access if the survey is taken via the online method. So one of the things we thought we would do to adjust that in this Facilities and Technology Subcommittee was that we're going to look at changing that language, where we're going to have the students in the student survey that is conducted, we want some questions specific in the student survey to that. They'll use their Chromebooks. They can take that student survey. They usually do it toward the middle or end of May in school anyway, and that way they can tell us via their Chromebooks, our 3rd through 12th graders. So we think we'll get a more accurate idea of internet accessibility. So we will make some changes there. Also, we wanted to make sure that under Goal 1, Action Step 2, and Goal 1 is all about equitable access to technology, that we believe at this point in time our staff has 100% access to technology. We still have some interactive whiteboards in a few of our classrooms that are not, they're sort of ancillary rooms. They're not where students are receiving direct instruction on a daily basis, but we do have a need for some more interactive whiteboards for those classrooms. But for the most part, every regular classroom does have an interactive whiteboard in it. Obviously, we have all of our teachers have the ability to access computer technology. We do, through that group, want to do a needs assessment, continue to do some work with needs assessment to make sure we decide what else do we want our classrooms to look like what other technology should be in those classrooms, other than just teacher computers and student Chromebooks and an interactive whiteboard. Is there something that we're missing? So there's some more needs assessment that we need to go through in that group to figure that out. And then ongoing professional development is number 5, action step 5. We've modified that to fall of 2014. We are currently in the process of developing a technology proficiency rubric for our staff, particularly our teachers. This is just in its initial phases, but we want everyone to be able to have a certain proficiency when it comes to technology integration in our school system. So we're developing that, and that will involve some professional development to make sure all of our teachers get up to that minimal level of proficiency, as well as integrating the technology in their classrooms for the benefit of our students. So the rubric is being worked on, and then a professional development plan will be developed, and we hope to have all of that by the end of this school year, the plan. And when the plan is developed, we'll bring it forward to you for your information. And then as I look through the rest of the document, I think we get down into student achievement and instruction. And we did add under Goal 1 that we will increase our graduation rate, will meet or exceed the state goal, etc. We do have an action step where we wanted to make sure there's a letter D, the establishment of a college and career readiness advisory. That's a very important group that we formed. We started with 30 members in December of community leaders from every walk of life. Now it's up to 45 without us even going out and recruiting. So the word has been out there, and we have community leaders coming forward and joining us. And we thought that needed to be added to our strategic plan board at this point. We've mentioned that it's met twice, and we're developing a specific action plan right now with these community leaders. Again, higher ed, K through 12, business and workforce leaders, government leaders, all coming together and talking about how do we make these stronger partnerships between all those entities to better the quality of life in our school corporations. Pretty neat. We also talked about a preschool under step 3 there, action step 3. It's related to preschool, and we have established a committee that will meet on April 17th. You know, we want to really work hard on who knows where the state's going to go with this preschool funding piece, but we want to be ahead of it and ready to go. We have 7 preschool classrooms in our district currently. That will represent next year 7 of our 12 elementaries. Now, how do we get preschool classrooms into the other 5? And let's study that and figure out what that's going to entail in terms of staffing and cost factors and so on. So that was another big piece. What we also did under goal number 2, that all of our schools will maintain or achieve an A rating. We wanted to specifically modify number 1, action step 1, continue to enhance the goal clarity process through district-produced pacing guides, and we've changed this to building-produced LARs, learning assessment rubrics, and common assessments. We were making an effort this past year to drive district-based assessments, and we feel that we'd be better served to have a common district-based curriculum that is being followed, but allow the buildings to have some flexibility to produce the actual learning assessment rubrics and common assessments. They still are accountable to the pacing guide. We're still focusing on mastery of standards, but that was something that we've worked hard with our teachers group all year long to try to get clarified. So we've made that modification. I think, board, that covers most of the plan. So I just can't thank our strategic plan committee enough. There's 60 people to show up in the morning to do that was awesome. It's a big help, and it's really what's driving our district. So I don't know if you have any other questions, or I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Dr. Mellon? Well, I do want to thank you again. Those, you know, we have that group that shows up, and it continues to have a high attendance rate at 7:30 in the morning, and we continue to see these groups spring off of that. So, I mean, it's exciting to keep watching. We appreciate the updates. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. I think, Ms. Lewis, you're up for Neola.
Yes, good evening. Well, the good news is 4 great big boxes arrived, all containing Neola materials, and we've opened them. Now, the next step. We are going to be scheduling teams. We're going to call them our review teams after our spring break to start evaluating the different sections of the Neola policy information that's been provided to us. And we're going to start with the assumption that we will adopt all of the Neola policies so that we have a basis. And we've got all the policies we'll be going through. But we're going to do them in sections, and we're going to ask for your participation in the sections that might be of interest to you. And so Pam Maples will be developing a schedule of meetings and the type of meeting. You know, it might be community involvement, it might be curriculum and instruction, budget, technology, whatever the component is, and we'll provide that to you as board members and seek your participation in the ones that interest you, so that you don't have to appoint one person to serve on all of the review committees, and so that you might be involved in the ones that most directly interest you. We will do the same thing with our administrative staff. Everybody's really busy, so we're going to ask them to participate. We may have to draft in a few places, but we'll include our principals, some classified staff members, our teachers, the persons that are sitting here at this table this evening, some of our various directors on our different components, and also at times we'll pull in community representatives for sections that would be pertinent for their input. So we do have a plan. We are excited about moving forward. It's a great big elephant. We're going to take it one bite at a time, but we'll get there, and we're excited. And then once we get the Neola policies ready for adoption by the board, then the parts of our current policies that we're getting rid of or rescinding, we'll ask you to do that at the time that you adopt the Neola policies. And again, we'll use the Neola policies as what we anticipate adopting. We will look at our policies for possible add-ons as we believe might be pertinent for some specific situation that relates directly to Greater Clark. So the boxes are here. Any questions? We're excited. It's a process.
Sandy, are these school policies or board policies?
Board policies.
Board policies? Well, then I believe we should be very active in reviewing those if there are policies.
Absolutely. And we welcome any one of you to serve on any or as many of the review teams as you are interested in doing. So we will let you know all the teams and what we're looking at is scheduling dates and times. I mean, we encourage you to be involved, but I think Teresa can tell you that it's a pretty massive undertaking. It would be a lot of time for any one individual. That's why we want to make sure all of you have a chance to participate.
It was a 2-year process
Yes.
in New Albany, Floyd, when I was involved in it.
Not quick.
It was painful.
But it's good. Once we get them adopted, then it's really easy to search for pertinent policy information that we will have online. Also, they provide updates twice a year for us to keep all of our policies up to date with current state and federal law and changes that are being recommended that come out of some of our state administrative agencies. So that's a good thing. And
The product is definitely worth the effort.
the research tool is going to be wonderful because right now it's really hard in our policies and our policy manuals to find items specific to a question that might come up. This way you can do keyword searches and it'll pull every policy that has that word or that concept mentioned. But yes, the more the merrier.
Mr. President, may I make a suggestion? Whenever Pam sends out the sections, I'm assuming that'll be via email. Let's make sure we are all copying one another when we respond on what sections we're interested in, so we don't mess up and get more than 3 in a section, or so we see if nobody's volunteered. And let's just make sure we copy all and communicate well, so we can all do our part and participate. I think that would be helpful. That way Pam doesn't have to try to round us up.
That'd be great.
Cindy, I just have one question. Kind of walk me through how that works. I know now we have our policies on the website, so as we begin to adopt these policies, are they just going to slide in on the website where the old policy is, or how does that actually work?
Normally, we'll probably get the concept of a section and have it approved, but we probably won't upload it until that we adopt the whole policy manual in its completion. Unless we just think there's something that's really needing to be in policy at that time. Probably have we'll have preliminary adoptions of the sections, but then a final overall adoption of the entire manual. I think that's what you always sort of did.
It'll be a couple readings then before we adopt it then. So.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Now, Cindy, there are other components to the NEOLA besides just the policies. There's
Right.
the
The administrative.
administrative.
Yeah.
Are we going to do those too?
We'll start with the policies, and then as the administrative regs play into some of the policies, we will look at those also.
We found that in New Albany, Floyd, we didn't have the administrative regs in place, and it was very helpful.
Yes.
It
Right.
helped spell out what needed to be done and when.
Neola does a great job, as you know, of providing some administrative guidelines to consider.
Right.
And so, again, when Neola comes forward, there are going to be some things that, based upon legislation or law, we must adopt. But there may be other options, and Neola does a good job of saying, here are some other things that you can consider. You may choose to adopt or not. You can modify or not. And so that's what I think is really helpful about the process. So I appreciate your help moving forward. When it's done, as you said, it'll be well worth it when it's done. But it will be a challenge working through it.
But it's our job. It's the number one job of a school board to develop policy. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Deichel, I guess you're up for the budget report.
Okay. I just want you to know, in my last position, I was the lead person on Neola, and I got honored to be the lead person in that one, and it was painful, to be honest with you. Anyway, the general fund, as you look at that, January we actually had 3 pays, and February now we're back down to 2 pays per month. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start tightening our estimate from here on out. Right now we're looking at about a $2.1 million projected cash balance. That should increase now. I wanted to see what our 2 pays were actually looking like for every month now. So we'll start doing that, and we haven't seen any Public Law 874 money. That's the $700,000 that we get from impact money, but everything else is coming in where we're anticipating it. Expenditures are lower than what we anticipated because of the reductions that you made last year, so that's good. So the $2.1 million will definitely grow. So if you go to, skip over the next 2, Renee, go to capital projects. Here we're showing a projected deficit of $751,000. Again, it's dependent on, are we going to actually lose $1.5 million in tax caps right above it? That's still unknown. We won't know until DLGF actually gives us our numbers. Before it was the county that would give us our numbers. Now it's the DLGF is going to do that for the whole state. So I'm interested to see when that number comes out to see exactly where we're at.
Is there an estimate on the time frame for that, Dr. Deichel?
Sometime in April is what they're saying, but they have to wait for the county assessors or auditors to get all the information to them. So hopefully by May we should have some firm numbers. That's what I'm hoping. Anyway, so we're looking at about a $751,000 deficit. We may have to stop projects during the course of the year before we actually start them, just to make sure we have enough cash to complete the end of the year. In transportation, operating fund, Nothing really out of the ordinary there. We're looking at a $215,000 tax cap right now. Cash balance could end as high as $237,000. Again, the tax cap is the main issue, like I told you before. Then the last fund is bus replacement, and because we actually did increase our line 1 appropriation, we're now going to be able to buy some buses. So that $523,000 will drop drastically because we'll spend about $450,000 for new buses or 2 or 3-year-old buses to get more bang for our dollar, because we need a lot of buses. So, any questions? So we have money, we're paying bills. I'm happy. I don't have indigestion yet. So.
Okay.
Thank you for the good news.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next item is the spring intercession update. Dr. Miller?
Board, just a few comments related to spring intercession. First of all, I can't thank our executive team and building level leadership, our teachers and our staff for all the work that they've put in to coordinate and organize intercession. It is a extremely taxing task that we have to go through, but it's all worth it. At this point in time, we have 1,800 students that are planning to attend. I'm sure that when the final numbers come in, it will probably be less than that, but these are contacts directly between our building principals and our parents, and commitments made for these students to attend. So 1,800 students to attend in 3 sites: Jeffersonville High School, Charlestown High School, New Washington High School. We have 127 teachers committed to help our kids, and it's a 15-to-1 ratio currently, and that's 10 more teachers in the spring than in the fall. Greatly appreciate those individuals for their help because they're on the front lines to provide extra help and assistance to kids who need it the most in our school corporation. Bus transportation will be the same in Washington and Charlestown, pretty much door to door. But in Jeffersonville, we tried hard to look at some alternative transportation methods. I really appreciate the work of Gary Green, our Director of Transportation, and Ken Watson. But just felt like we ran out a little bit of time to get it all organized and coordinated, and we had some issues that I think we need to continue to work on to prepare for next fall. So we're going to go back to still picking up all of our Jeffersonville area students at one of our 9 elementary schools. And that's been communicated well to everyone, and so we'll go from there. Food service, Aramark, Natalie and her people have done a great job. They'll be providing the same level of breakfast and lunch that they have in the past. I feel very confident in what they bring to the table. Our paras will still have 12 paraprofessionals, 9 in Jeffersonville. Those 9 paras will be assigned to each elementary to help supervise students at the elementary sites while they're loading buses or waiting for buses and coming back. And then those 9 paras will help at Jeffersonville High School because about 1,300 of those students are at Jeff High School. And then there will be 2 paras at Charlestown and 1 para at New Washington. Curriculum is a focus on language arts and math, again helping those students better prepare for state assessments, focusing on those skills. Communities and schools will still be involved from 6:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. at Jeffersonville High School. Tried to work on that at Charlestown High School, could not get enough interest in the program to justify the staffing yet. My hope is that over time that will occur. And then enrichment, we continue to try to offer enrichment opportunities in the afternoons. It's still not catching on maybe as well as we'd hoped, but we do have engineering and theater. And I believe we have 29 engineering students, and we have 53 theater students that want to be enriched during the intercession week. So that gives you a quick update. We'll come back after intercession with a report on actual numbers, and we're also going to be tracking their growth using what is our STAR data for reading level. We'll be tracking all students. We'll take that on Friday, the Friday of intercession week, and we'll track that with their most recent STAR data that they've taken around the 1st of March. And we'll track that data in terms of growth and bring that back to you.
Any questions for Dr. Mellon?
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah,
Good
again,
plan.
we appreciate it. It's like, I guess, 3 school openings a year, isn't it?
Yeah, it
I mean,
is.
all the coordination that goes along with it. So, again, our thanks to the teachers and staff for pulling this off. So, all right, Billenberg, I guess you're on for the pilot warehouse, or I'm sorry, pivot warehouse.
Made our purchase during December. We did all of our data uploads over to Pivot. In January, we were ready to go with the product. I'm getting these demo data because we are trying to protect students' privacy issues when we look at this. But wanted to just give you a real quick overview. Our e-learning coaches have been out supporting buildings with providing training procedures for administrators. Within the first 24 hours, there's so many phone calls from staff saying thank you. This was a product that very much will help the work that's done in the building. I'm going to go ahead and just log in as a demo administrator. If you notice, Pivot, again, is a product of 5-Star Technologies, which is actually how the code works. It offers several components. For our particular district, we're just using 3. The first one is the dashboard. Second one is data warehouse, and the third one is interventions. I'll just kind of let you know that the interventions is in beta. So as we're kind of piloting the intervention system and warehouse through Pivot, our teachers are able to give us feedback as to any kind of changes that Blackstar needs to make so that next year we'll be up and running as personalized and customized to what we want. I'm going to start with the dashboard. This is probably, I think, one of the coolest features of this product. As a teacher or administrator logs in, they'll get notifications of any recent updates to testing information or uploads. And as you come down, you'll get a real quick overview of student performance. And I think the one that captures the best is the sample of an ISTEP overall performance. So from a district perspective, this would give you the information as a district on how schools are doing or how the district is doing. And if I scroll down within this data warehouse, I'm able to get a little more specific. Let's say that I want to go into how schools are doing individually, and I can go ahead and select schools, and then I would get, here's an example of a sample elementary, sample high school, another different elementary school. So I'm able to see, just kind of a real quick overview of the breakdown. If I want to go a little bit further, I can click on Sisters Intermediate Schools, and I can get a breakdown of how the grades are doing. So I can do a real quick overview, and any of these I can capture as a picture or as a chart that I can go ahead and send out in an email if need be. I can go a little bit deeper within my grade 3. I can break down and look at how English and math are performing, the differences, and then one more level I can go to, and it will actually show each teacher's class. So from an administrative perspective, just being able to maintain kind of that eye on the prize and where any kind of issues are, and allow teachers to collaborate around what's working and what's not, is a great tool. They offer this for both the ISEP and ECA at this particular time. By next year, we should have acuity within this dashboard and some other tests, or STAR tests. From a teacher's perspective, probably the most useful tool is this data warehouse. And if I just start with, again, these are all kinds of assessments that can be uploaded. For our district, we have ISEP, we have our APT, iRead, we have iMath, Acuity. We don't use MCAS any longer, so that's not kind of a tab for our teachers. But if I just start with ISEP, and I just, let's say, want to take a look at grade 3 for the district, it will pull for me a list of how all grade 3 students did in the district. And it's color-coded to kind of help immediately kind of see green is that kids are on target, orange means that they passed, they're in the safe zone, and then red and yellow kind of indicate, the yellow would be a bubble student, or red would indicate students that did not pass. I can sort these scores. so that, like, I can put all my green together, I can go backwards, and, like, these are my kids that are, that have not passed yet, and I can create a group of these kids. Let's say I wanted to create just, I want to take 3 or 4 of these kids and put them in a group. I'm able to, I'm sorry, to create a group. I'll call it my red group. And then I can just look at those students and look at their scores on different tests. I can go a little bit further. You can see I chose 4 students. I can look at how they did on acuity. And I can get an even further breakdown of the students' performance. So from a classroom teacher's perspective, I can have 30 kids, and I can go ahead and sort them into groups through this program. I can kind of monitor how their scores are, and it's a very just easy fix. And I can create and delete groups as often as I need to. We have a lot of schools that are using this right now for their impact groups. This is how they're determining who groups look like, and they're using actual live data to do that. The last is what we talked about was the interventions, and I think this is going to be an essential key for us for next year. An intervention plan that's tied directly to student data. So for each student, I think it's our goal within impact that especially our kids that are not achieving at grade level proficiency, that they would actually have an individualized plan. And through this form, we're able to keep track just of demographic information, but we're also able through pivots to keep track of their intervention history. So if we know that this student was in first quarter in a sort of success reading group, and the next time he was in an early success reading group, we're able to see what their growth is based on what program they were in. So I think that's a really helpful feature. As we go through, we can share, if I'm the interventionist in a building, I can share all of this information with that student's classroom teacher. I can share the form. And again, I can scroll down and add any notes or files that we need to. Again, this is the part that's still in beta. But as we've got about 50 plans right now in the district where we've asked the schools to just work through a couple students with this plan and then give us feedback as to what kind of additions, subtractions they might want within the program. When we start the school year next year, all parents will be able to log in and see their students' profile. So historically, all of the tests that their students have taken while in Greater Clark, all of the kind of benchmark assessments will be there longitudinally so they can kind of track their own student progress. We didn't want to roll that out until we had all of our teachers trained and everybody kind of up and running.
Amy, the initial data that's put into our student data system, that completely rolls over to this, or do we have any input issues, or?
This syncs with PowerSchool every night.
Okay. So when a student moves, his data will go with him?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. And what's nice is any other, if they are a pivot district, let's say we have a move-in of a student, and they come from a district that uses pivot, their data comes with them as long as it's within the pivot program. Five-Star has a very nice partnership with the Department of Ed, and so they really have been kind of on the forefront of making this work from a state perspective. So they've been really accommodating to that.
And these other tabs at the top, are we going to be looking at any of those, or are they duplicates of something we already do, or?
Currently, we utilize Miranda Tower and a teacher evaluation system. We're in the process of looking at this because it's obviously, this is a much cheaper program. When we talked about our old data warehouse system, which was very cumbersome and not teacher-friendly at all, cost double what this costs today.
Okay.
So as we would add modules, it would be about $1 a student to add a module,
Okay.
which is really reasonable.
Board, I also have to thank Amy because she was has been part of the development of this product. So working with 5 Star, she's been part of a group of people that really have been at the forefront of this. So I want to thank her and let you know that to have her part of the development as we're trying to make sure that this is a product that definitely is benefiting all of Greater Clark, it's been helpful to have her involved in it.
Thank you,
All right,
Amy.
thanks, Amy. Okay, Dr. Millen, corporate data dashboard.
Well, Board, if when you roll into this building, you see a dashboard that's out in our main area, and the same would hold true for our schools. I'm going to share with you our district dashboard that's available. Of course, our vision, and there's a consistency from building to building with some of these slides, but our vision is identified, then our mission, and then we get into some demographic work. And if you look at the demographics, you can see state average is on all these slides, and then you can see the last 3 years of data. So you can see our percent of free and reduced lunch students has increased each of the last 3 years, and the ethnicity of our school system has increased in each of the last 3 years as well. Why is this here? It's really for tracking purposes. We want to make sure, you know, we're proud of our school system and we're proud of all of our students. But it's also important for everyone to understand that the diversity of our district also can lead to certain types of challenges. So if we can move forward to the next slide. It's the special ed population and ESL population. So if you look at that again, special ed has been fairly stable over the past 3 years, staying around the 16% range, but still above state average. And you can see the ESL population is now above the state average and has increased with in each of the last 3 years. In terms of growth factors for English language arts for I-STEP in grades 3 through 8, our goal is 80%. You can see that listed. You see where the state average is. It's just under 80%. And you can see in 12 and 13 where we perform. So we're improving, progressing, still not quite where we want to be related to goal. Math, similar. The state average is 82.9. That's what our district goal is. We'd like to at least get to state average. You can see in 12 and 13 that we have grown, increased, and improved, but we're still not quite where we want to be relative to goal. You know, the accountability system awards districts for high growth, and this gives you a sense of what the goals are. The state benchmark in English language arts is 42.5%. If we have 42.5% or higher students in high growth, then we get a bonus point. So you can see that we've set a goal above the state average. You can see in 12 and 13 where we are. So think about this for a minute. In 2013, 30% of our students from grades 3 through 8, and this is the bottom 25% of our students, 30%, 3 out of 10, were in high growth. That's not 42.5%, but we have a lot of kids in high growth. In the math area, the state benchmark is higher, but our performance is higher. So, and this is the bottom 25% of our students. So I'm pretty proud of where we're moving in this direction. The next set of slides will be high growth for the top 75%. And again, you can earn a bonus point here, and you can see where the state goals are, or the state goal and the state district goal is, and you can see where we stand both in language arts and in math. So we have work to do to get more students to high growth, but this is a way to measure how we're doing and to set goals for our district. Overall low growth, you can lose a point for students in low growth. So again, 36.4%. We want to have less than that as a district, and to make sure that we do not get penalized. As a corporation, we were not penalized in terms of low growth as a school corporation in our corporation grade. But you can see where the goals are for both language arts and math. We want to make sure that we're staying underneath that state benchmark of 39.8 for language arts and 42.4 for math. I read reading performance. You can see how we've progressed in the last couple of years. Our goal this year for 2014 is 94%. We hope that we'll hit that goal. The state average is 91.4, and our district is at 91.4%. And I think being at state average is a good initial goal for us as a district, and then begin to exceed it. English 10 performance on end-of-course exams, our goal is 80%. The state average is 76.5. As a district, from 12 to 13, we did grow and improve. We're still not where we want to be. Algebra 1 performance, 83.4 is the state average. Our goal is 85. We've stayed pretty stable in 12 and 13 in terms of Algebra 1 math performance. Don't like to see the stable. We'd like to see some level of growth. But I'm confident that our teachers and administrators are working hard to meet that goal. And again, I won't go into as much detail here, board, but for end-of-course exams, you are also measured in terms of the amount of students in high growth. Now, one measures students from grades 8 to 10. How do they grow from grade 8 to grade 10 in both language arts and math? And if you can see, look at what the state goal is and where we've been performing from 8 to 10. It's not acceptable. It's not where we want to be. But look at where we are 10 to 12. So from 10 to 12, you can see that we've done amazing work at the high school level from grades 10 through 12. Look at, we're greatly exceeding state goal, and this has been something that is a very positive element. So on one hand, we need to work hard on that transition from 8 to 10. We know we have to do it, but the amount of achievement that we're getting from 10 to 12 is pretty impressive.
How
Go
is
ahead.
the Algebra 1 figures from 10 to 12? I mean, what are the parameters? How do they figure that, Amy?
So if you think about the remediation efforts that are ongoing at the high school level to make sure that our students are meeting that end-of-course exam, you can't graduate with a diploma unless you have passed these exams, unless you qualify for some waiver, which is not what we try to emphasize. So you can see the work our high school people have been doing in these two areas. It's been pretty impressive. Graduation rate, as you can see, we're above the state average. You can see growth from 12 to 13. Our district goal for 14 is 92%, and I'm hoping that we'll get to that level. College and career readiness, you can earn bonus points in order to make sure, if you make sure that students are working toward college and career readiness. And you can see over here on the right that students, if they get a passing score on advanced placement exam, we do not have a baccalaureate exam here, but we do have the dual credit program, which has greatly helped. Both our AP program and our dual credit program have greatly helped in this area. And then also there's a passing score on an approved history certification exam. So our high schools are tracking this data, trying to maximize the number of kids in our AP dual credit programs. I think I told you before, about 1/3 of our students at Jeff High are enrolled in a dual credit class this year. I think it's almost half of our students at Charlestown High School are involved in a dual credit class. So I'm proud of the efforts that our people are putting into this. And then this is the big one. I mean, we've been a C school corporation. That's not where any of us want to be. And the only way that we can continue to get better is to know where we are and to set goals and work hard to strive to meet them. Now, what I think is important to note is last year, our corporation grade point average was 2.56. This past year, it was 2.86. So we did grow as a corporation. So we're just slightly below the B level. I also believe we were the only school corporation in the area that showed growth as a corporation. So I'm proud of that fact. So we're not where we want to be, but we're getting better, and we're going to continue to be dedicated to get where we need to be. I don't know if you have any questions, but wanted to make sure that you receive that update.
Questions, board? All right, thank you. Sandy, I'm going to need a little help on this next one, the consent agenda, now that we don't have field trips in there, and it is an item. So do I just take items 1, 2, 4, and 5? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, consent agenda, items 1, 2, 4, and 5.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Discussion? All in favor? Be 6-0. Thank you. I don't believe we have any gifts to buildings this time, so we'll go into action items. And the first one is cancellation of 10 bus routes. I think that's Dr. Dykle.
Due to the increased difficulty in attracting bus drivers to the corporation, high variable absenteeism, and the overall cost of running and operating buses, we recommend that the attached list of bus routes canceled. Bus routes are 990, or bus number is 990, 994, 204, 10-4, 002/103, 124, 105, 506, 601/10-3, and 202. So the recommendation from the superintendent is that we cancel these corporation bus routes.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Second.
Mr. Hall, thank you. Questions for Dr. Dykle? All in favor? Be 6-0. Thank you. Next item is the approval to advertise the bus contract routes.
The bus numbers that I gave you last year, we're going to advertise those to be contracted out. We also have other ones that we are expiring at the end of this school year. So I'll read all of them again. It's bus number 990, 994, 204, 10-4, 002/103, 124, 105, 506, 601/10-3, 202. The next buses are the ones that are expiring in the school year, so we need to review those also and get them out. Bus 3C, 11C, 15C, 17C, 18C, 14J, 6W, 9W, 18J, 19J, 7W, 1W, and 14W. Superintendent recommends the advertising and negotiation of legal and operating bus contract with the stipulation that no bus be older than 15 years in the last school.
Move to approve advertising.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions for Dr. Dykle? All right. All in favor? Be 6-0. All right. Oh, okay.
We already did that.
Yeah, we did that on the first. Okay.
Which is a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Dykle. Next item is I'm going to say the LIPS contract. I think that's probably a safe way to say that. So.
This is a program that we brought in a couple of years ago and we're going to bring it back. It's a unique sequencing program that we use to teach our speech pathologists and also some of our early childhood teachers to use. And then they can work with children in small groups to help them get those community skills so that they can do better. It's a 3-day training. It is a little bit expensive, and we collaborated. Him and I collaborated with her grant and the money I had in specializing in this. None of the money is coming out from us.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Any questions?
Yes, I saw that we're bringing them here instead of we're sending them out, and I appreciate that. I know it saves us money to do that.
Okay. All in favor? Be 6-0. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the Early Intervention Literacy Grant. Kim, every time you come up, you're bringing money. We're going to have you up here more often. So.
I am asking that you accept a grant from the Indiana Department of Education. It is the Early Literacy Grant. 5 different schools, North Haven, Bridge Point, Parkwood, Maple, and Pleasant Ridge. And this grant is specifically for improvements in areas where teacher intervention, and it is going to cover the LIFT program that Amy just talked about, a portion of that, as well as allowing us to purchase an intervention kit for K through 2 teachers in those buildings, as well as some additional training to learn how to better utilize those kits, and then the
Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins.
Second.
Thank you. All right, I guess, okay. No questions? All right, all in favor? All right, 6-0. That was Mr. Hall, by the way. I'm sorry. I was looking over at Kim and lost my train of thought. All right. Next one is the approval to apply for the 1003 school improvement grants for priority schools.
as part of the NEA state accountability, we have 3 schools that have been identified as B schools and are now considered priority schools in the state. That classification allows them to be or create their eligibility for federal grants. So the school improvement grant is available for competitive proposals for 3 of our schools, North Haven, River Valley, and Parkview. We'd like to go ahead and make application if the board approves this. The grant awards are between $50,000 and $2 million a year for 3 years for those sites. It's really too large of a sum for us to not go for or try to. It's been a very short turnaround time. The Department of Ed has been in some flux, and so they came out on March 4th with this information to April 1st. So we've been really trying to get our ducks in a row. What we're asking for and setting up with each of the schools is a similar framework between the 3, and it's really to continue the work that we have in the student achievement system. We're looking for personnel to support us in instructional coaching and professional development at each site, and then an e-learning coach at each site as well. So we'd like to be able to ask for those positions. We're also looking at professional development that goes along with the gradual release model that we have been working on. Doug Fisher and Nancy Fry's model. ASTD has contract employees who would come out and do professional development for each of those buildings for 10 days per year, which would be really amazing. And then the staff who participates in professional development 8 times through that year, and then work on the implementation would receive a stipend at the end of the year of about $5,000 is what we're asking. The next layer of the contracted services we'd like to ask for is to really look at our intersection in summer school, and Dr. Mallon has mentioned it before. One of the biggest problems that we have is transportation. So we would be looking for the ability to contract out to be able to have late buses through the week so that we could run after school tutoring, after school programs, and have late activity bus run students home so that they can participate in it, and then also support the intersection, the transportation issues that we have with intersection to be able to do door-to-door pickup for that. We'd love to keep funding that. Finally, to kind of increase the level of technology at each of these buildings. Yes, we have the Chromebooks, but we've also always known that we wanted to be a multi-platform environment. So for our science and our math, we wanted to look at maybe adding iPads in the classrooms, look for charging cards, things to help us with that implementation of our current technology. Each of the buildings, at North Haven, they have the smallest number of staff. This grant application is looking at about $600,000 for those buildings and about $850,000 each for Parkview and River Valley. We go up on Thursdays with technical assistance from the Department of Ed, and as I said, grant is due April 1st. The buildings have been working with their stakeholders, their GCEA representation. We've asked for corporation discussions to endorse this. The schools have asked their CTO representatives as well as their building leadership team and full faculty. So it's a lot of work to get done right when we're administering our stuff, right when we're trying to get intersection going, but we would be remiss if we didn't apply for it. So asking for approval to apply.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Any questions for Amy?
Is this an all or none?
Yes,
Hmm.
and it's highly competitive.
Yeah, I know it's highly
Bet.
competitive, but we lumped the three schools together. I mean, it
It won't allow us.
won't allow us to do the, okay.
As a corporation, we can apply for each of the three, but each school has to have their own application. They have to have their own proposal.
Right, but could North Haven can't win and
Yes.
they can?
Yes.
Oh, so it's not an all or none?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have, we know when it's due, do we have an idea of when they're going to make decisions?
April 15th will be contacted if we're selected to interview for the grant. We're going to award her April 30th.
That's good luck.
Be a nice present.
Yeah, it would. All right. All in favor? Okay, 6-0. Thank you, Amy. All right. Next item is the approval of resolution to lengthen the school day. So I think you have that one.
Yes, Board, I'd like to bring a recommendation to you this evening. It's one that's gone through its paces in terms of consideration. As you know, we've lost a lot of days to the most unique winter we've had in some time. And as a result of that, we have a need to maximize instructional time. And why is that important? Because with the era of accountability that we're now in this state, that as much as we may not fully agree that that's how we need to be graded and accounted for, we believe that we must do everything in our power to make sure our students are ready for any state assessment that comes up. And so as we looked at it, as you know, we've made some modifications to our calendar already in regard to going to school on President's Day and Oaks Day. I know that there was some conversation about intersession or spring break week, but we've made a commitment to intersession, which we've explained earlier as to why that's important. So we did start to brainstorm other ideas, and we did sit down with DCEA, and we did talk to our other employee groups as well. And the thought process was, how can we maximize instructional time between April 7th, when we come back from spring break, and in May 9th, between April 7th and May 9th, which is basically I-STEP. The I-STEP window has now been extended to May 13th, but those 5 weeks, what can we do in order to make sure that our students are as best prepared for state assessments as possible? Well, by adding 45 minutes to the end of the school day, we believe that that's the best way to make this happen. Now, the state also has allowed us to do this as part of their waiver program. They've said that for every 6 hours of additional instructional time, that it equates to 1 day. Our board, I will tell you that my recommendation tonight is not coming to you because I believe that we need to have our students out of school earlier. That is not the primary reason. The primary reason is we need to be competitive with area school systems that have all made adjustments to their calendars, including extending the hours of their school day. We're all competing. We're in an era of accountability and competitiveness in K-12 education that's unprecedented. So we believe that by having the intersession for 1,800 of our most academically at-risk students, but then also from April 7th through May 9th, having 5 weeks of 45 minutes more per day, then we are putting our district in a very highly competitive environment to make sure our students are as ready as they possibly can be to achieve on state assessments. You know, what will happen as a result of the additional time is it will reduce the number of school days. So our students will get out of school on Friday, June 6th, as opposed to Wednesday, June 11th. Our teachers will have their last teacher day on Monday, June 9th, under this plan. So that is part of this recommendation. But I want to assure you it's instructional time. And people will say, well, why just for these 5 weeks? We entered into some pretty serious discussion with our Teachers Association. We discussed 3 different options with them. We had our administrators in the room. We had many GCEA building representatives in the room. and we talked about all of the pros and cons of all of this, and it was agreed that the 45-minute extended day was in the best interest because it's the reason why we're doing it. We're trying to make sure that we have our kids ready. I do understand, and we are sensitive to the fact that this will cause somewhat of an inconvenience for some of our students, some of our parents. We understand that. But I told you when you first hired me as a superintendent that decisions will be made. I'll bring forward recommendations that are in the best interest of our students. And at times, that will be at an inconvenience to some of our adults. This is one of those times. But I believe that it's so critical that we do this that we must, I must bring this recommendation forward to you. Some concerns. What about athletic events after school? Well, our athletic directors have been consulted. Our athletic directors are aware of this. They're in communication with other schools. So if athletic events have to start 45 minutes later, then so be it. That will happen. Some people ask about jobs. What about students who have jobs after school? Well, I will tell you that the employers that I'm aware of, they will be understanding of this situation for our students. And frankly, if they're not, then I wouldn't hesitate to make a phone call to that business myself, because academics must come first for our students. The curriculum board. From a curricular perspective, there's flexibility built within. Here is the focus of the 45 minutes needs to be on language arts and math instruction. But at every building, at every level, the principals are working with their building leadership teams in order to build a curriculum that will meet their needs and with their resources in mind. The only demand that I would make on that is that time needs to be focused on language arts and math instruction, preparing for state assessments. We've entered into an agreement. We have a letter of assurance with our Teachers Association to make sure that there's an understanding that this adjustment does not impact their current contract in any way, shape, manner, or form. So I've been appreciative of all of our teachers, of our administrative team, our executive team, our other employee groups that understand that this is something that I know is somewhat of an inconvenience, but we believe is definitely in the best interest of our students. And that is why, Board, I bring it to you tonight as a recommendation that I believe is very important for our kids.
Thank you, Dr. Mellon. Do I have a motion? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Discussion.
You know, I have a couple comments. As Frank brought up earlier, there's a lot of variables involved. But I think the common denominators are kids and test scores. And that's paramount of any decision we need to make. So I think this is the right move.
All right. No further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Be 6-0. All right. I don't think we have any discussion items today.
Mark, I'm sorry. Before we move on, Dr. Mellon, could you just, for peace of mind for me, probably for the rest of the board too, can you talk just a smidge about how we're going to communicate this to our parents?
Yes. Thank
right
you.
Now?
Yeah, right now.
Right now. That's what I'm talking about.
But,
okay.
And I apologize. I forgot to mention that portion of it. Pretty important. As you can see, Aaron Bojorquez has done a great job today in preparing the communication that's gone out to different media outlets. So that's already occurred. We've also prepared a school messenger that's an email and text message that's going out to all of our staff and parents. It doesn't stop there. We know that we're going to need to work hard to, over the course of the next several days, to make sure that it's communicated out. We'll use Staff Insight and Parent Connect, our newsletters as well. I'm sure that we're going to have to use School Messenger again, perhaps next week during intercession week, to make sure that we're giving people as much advance notice as possible so plans can be made. This does start the Monday after spring break, April 7th, so I can also see us sending out another School Messenger that weekend, just again as another reminder. You know, we're going to be sensitive to everyone's issues and the inconveniences that are caused. We're going to use common sense in terms of dealing with whatever individual circumstances may arise.
Facebook, Twitter, Aaron, everything we have available. And thank you to the media for being here, too, to help us spread the message.
Okay, you can get back to work, Aaron. All right, we don't have any public comments on non-agenda items. Board comments. Mr. Hall.
I just want to congratulate a Greater Clark teacher. Jason Connell is a teacher at Charlestown Middle School, and he's the coach of Clarksville, which will be playing in the semi-state. Now, we don't have a 2A school in our corporation, so I can brag about Clarksville, 2A school, and Jason Connell's done a great job with them.
Going to semi-state, right?
They're playing in semi-state.
I would just like to reflect a little bit on all of the conversations that have gone on, and I know we will be, some people will not be happy with the decision we made tonight about the 45 minutes. I've gotten several emails, and I know all the board members have, and we've tried to respond to those, and I appreciate the time that the Frank has put in with the association. I know it was, sometimes you can't make everybody happy, but he and I talked this afternoon, and I do believe we made the right decision as a group, our students, and I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Ms. Kraft?
Just to reiterate, we have some of the best teachers in the area, and the principals are terrific at what they do. And if we're going to individualize in every building, we're going to get it done. Until the state stops making us teach the test, we have no choice. And so we'll continue to be as good as we are and hope to get better.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Gilkey?
I just want to give you guys a couple of updates. This Thursday, we have our ISBA Spring Regional Meeting in Seymour. Starts at 6. Program actually starts at 6:30. They have social time. But I want to make sure that you all are aware that Dr. Frank Bush, who is a Charlestown graduate, product of Greater Clark, has served as the ISBA Executive Director for 26 years. He's going to retire, and this will be his last meeting. So we're going to be honoring him and giving him a couple of gifts. So I just wanted to make sure you all knew that. And then also, as far as the process that the ISBA region directors are using to find his replacement, on June 6th, right now they've posted it. They're in the process of getting applicants, and they're going to interview, and then on June 6th, all the directors are going to come together and kind of have an interview/dinner with the final candidates, 1 or 2 candidates, whoever the executive board narrows it down to. So that's kind of the process right now. I just wanted to make sure you all were aware of how that's going. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is there will also be some summer conference dates coming out within the next week or two, probably be announced Thursday night. So just want to make sure you're aware of those. But last year I think it was French Lick. This year it will be in Indianapolis. So just some ISBA updates for you.
Thank you, Representative from District 10 of ISBA. All right, Dr. Mel?
The only thing, Board, is I had the good pleasure of attending a Charlestown High School production musical, Schoolhouse Rock, live on Sunday, and just very impressed. Quality was outstanding, very entertaining, and they involved so many kids from all over the Charlestown area. It was really a great afternoon. So I appreciate the work that's going on at Charlestown High School in involving all the kids from the different buildings there. It was pretty impressive.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gilkey. All in favor? All right, good night.